It's Ruse here with The Real Masculine, and I have another one of my former coaches and good friend, Nils Flair. Nils, how you doing today?
Oh, I'm awesome, man. I'm really, really good.
Good. Glad to hear, man. I'm excited to have you on and share your perspective with my group. I think they're going to learn a lot from you and a lot of your ancient wisdoms that you drop on people. uh, And today's topic that I wanted to go over with you is the topic of why awareness is so key to your freedom. Uh,
Mm.
and I think we both talk about awareness a lot within our own kind of groups and stuff, but I don't think it's always very clear. So, from coming from you, what is awareness?
Yeah, that's a good question, and obviously, it's very important. Like to understand the value and the power of awareness, we need to define it. We need to understand what it is. So, obviously, awareness is kind of it's something that's so fundamental that it's a little bit hard to define. You know, it's not like a color, right? That it's very easy to understand, but it's still not that hard. So basically, the way I understand awareness is your level of perception. So basically, let's say to make it very simple, on an eye level, you have someone who doesn't need glasses, you have someone with glasses. The person with glasses, if he takes them off, he cannot see that far. But the person without the glasses, he can see very far. So in this example, the person with the glasses, when he takes them off, he has a lower awareness, he cannot see that far. But the person who doesn't have glasses, he has a kind of a greater awareness, he can see further. Now, this is not an I thing, it's more of a general perception, meaning that when your perception is greater, you can perceive more things. It's not only about seeing things with your eyes, but being able to pick up on things in reality around you. Not sure if it was the best defined explanation, but that's how I understand it. So your level of perception.
No, I agree with you, and I think the way I look at it is very similar. I look at it as like your level of understanding, and I think the understanding can come in different layers.
Mm.
So, like for example, one layer of understanding is you understand that you have some sort of reaction or behavior towards something. The next
Mm.
level of understanding is what's the motivation that causes you to behave in that way, and the next layer of might be what is that thing giving you that you don't think you can get on your own, and it can go layer
Mm.
deeper and deeper until you really get to the core of really
Mm.
understanding the entirety of that specific behavior and actually have an
Yeah,
opportunity to change it. So
I
yeah,
think
layers of understanding.
it's like for me the reason I pick a perception is because I feel perception is a very, it describes the quality, right? So awareness is yes a quality. So you perceive things and gain understanding from that, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
and then it goes on. So definitely for me, awareness and perception is probably the most fundamental and central thing to almost everything in my life at this point.
Mhm. So where does awareness come into play in your view when it comes to someone looking to, let's say, change, their dating life or change, their career trajectory or change
Mhm.
their personal health, where they might be
Mm.
feeling stuck in these areas? Like, how does awareness help them in these areas?
Good, perfect question. So basically, this is how we apply awareness in self-development and why it's so important. Because just like you said, like the question of someone who doesn't understand awareness and haven't gotten into it might think that, oh, awareness is just some woo-woo concept. It's just some like spiritual thing. I'm into self-development. I want to develop myself. This is not for me. It's a gross misunderstanding because
Right.
if you look at a person that's having a problem in dating or wants to kind of change their career or change themselves in any way, the thing that doesn't allow these people to change is their patterns, and it's their unconscious patterns, meaning that an example of a conscious pattern is my hand. I can move my hand wherever I want because it's a conscious pattern. If I was talking to you right now and my hand was going like this, I couldn't control it and it was hitting me and shit, that would be unconscious. Now, not many people have this problem with their hands, but many people have this problem with their minds. And what that is basically unconscious patterns. So we're talking about thought patterns, emotional patterns, belief patterns, behavioral patterns, and other compulsions that they have. So let's take a guy who has a problem with dating. He has a set array of different unconscious patterns that holds him back. One can be that he feels the fear of rejection. That's an unconscious pattern. Another could be that he feels confused where to begin. Another one could be that he's not feeling good enough for the women. And there's many different patterns that he could have, but it can still be translated into just an unconscious pattern. So awareness comes into play because awareness is the one thing that can unlock an unconscious pattern. It's the one thing that you can apply that will start to open up these patterns. And I want to make a very clear reference to the power of this, and it's a personal example. Basically, I think the thing about unconscious pattern that people don't understand, it's very deep in our culture. Most people think that these patterns are set. So if you're afraid of rejection, really you cannot change that. Or if you feel not good enough, you're screwed. You always feel like this. And psychology says the same thing. They're actually modeling these patterns and giving you a personality and saying, this is you. And that's not the truth. In the last 3 years, I've taken these personality tests for fun. And in 3 years, I changed personality 3 times, completely new people in 3 years. Now, this is a result. It's not because I'm schizo. It's a result.
Multiple personality disorder over here.
It's basically a result of me working very diligently and hard on developing my awareness and increasing it. So many of these unconscious patterns would fall off. And these unconscious patterns, they would create, personality attributes. When they fall off, a new personality, a more congruent one comes up. And it has happened now 3 times. Not that I took the test 1 or 3 times. I took it like 8 times in 1 year and I got the same. And then the next year I took it 6 times. I got the same. And now this year I took it only once though, but I got something different. So this kind of proves that awareness can change a lot of fundamental things if you know how to apply it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree. I think if we don't know where our starting point is, if we're not aware of where the starting point is, there's no way for us to fundamentally change the behavior pattern, but because we don't understand how it's serving us and how we're in a way addicted to it or attached to it. And a lot of times it's what I find is that most people that I'm working with, they genuinely believe that's who they are. They believe they are the pattern. They believe they are the thoughts and the feelings that create the behavior. And it's not until they create just a little bit of space where they see like, oh, there's awareness, and then there is this pattern, and I can actually see the pattern now.
Yes. It's beautiful when you get to that point. Like, it's just beyond, like, I remember the first times when I started to understand this. The whole reason I became more spiritual and more into this was because I had certain very formative experiences, not only in the last years, but even before that showed me this, that what I believed was truth was not true and could be changed. So that really opened me up to go very deep into this topic myself and make it a very integral part of my life.
What do you think it is that, because I think everyone has they have some awareness, right? And sometimes they're aware, but they're kind of turning their back, or they're turning a blind eye to that awareness, or that part of them that is trying to show them something. And I experienced this a lot growing up in my 20s, where I knew some of the stuff that I was doing, and I intentionally was like keeping my awareness down, like, no, stop, I don't want to look at that, right? What do you think it is that stops people from actually looking at themselves, or from actually going and introspecting?
Oh, the short answer, they're afraid what they're gonna find. Like, they're really afraid of what they're gonna find, because still they have this belief that if they dig deeper and they find something, that thing will be permanent, right? So they think that that's the core, and this is, I would say that probably most of the issues in the planet today is because people have these very deep insecurities that are very deep down, that they've mistaken for their core, and they're running away from themselves because of this. And that's manifesting in a lot of toxic ways, in anything from, you know, the type of mainstream culture that we have today, and what people are putting in their bodies, what people are doing to each other, like how we're valuing the planet. Like there's so many things, because the way that culture is today is not necessarily how it needs to be. Like there's a future that I envision in my head where, you know, mainstream culture would be, I hate to use the word high consciousness, but more conscious, more aware, to the point where all of this beautiful and you know, magnificent and amazing things about life would be put forth in a mainstream way so that we can all kind of share it. But we're very far from that right now.
Yeah. Um, I think right now it's interesting you bring that up. It seems to be there's like a conscious movement with a lot of resistance going on. I think it's being played out pretty much right now.
Yeah.
And it seems that I think that's a good way to actually transition to the next question I have is like, how do you see most people growing? Because the way I see it is like they start to have a consciousness move internally, and then they resist. It kind of goes like up, and then they have a pullback, and they're like kind of almost fighting or dragging themselves through the growth because of those internal resistances or those internal maybe attachments to their past ways of doing things. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, basically the way I see it is that people fail to understand that everything that they actually experience comes from within. What that means is that whatever good or bad thing happens from the outside, it's the reaction in you that creates how you feel about it and how you experience it. People, they don't understand that this is happening. The people that do understand it, or even if you tell someone, they're gonna be like, yeah, but I can't change it. I don't want to take responsibility for this.
Mm-hmm.
And the way to explain it is, no, you're creating it. You just don't know how. If you know that, this is now empowering, because that gives you the opportunity to find out and fix it. If you just say, no, it's just because this situation, I cannot do anything about it, then you're right, you cannot do anything about it. So basically, I see many people grow and struggle a lot because they're struggling against themselves. Because the type of intelligence that we have as humans, I mean, I talked to you a little bit about this before, but the type of level of intelligence we have is just so greater than any other organism on the planet. I really think that we're not stupid. We're too smart, and we don't know how to handle it. And that's what I think is working against people. Their intelligence is working against them. So unfortunately, I see most people grow kind of accidentally. I don't see much conscious growth, like very rare in my opinion. There are some people, and it's very inspiring to see, but to me, it's still a quite rare occasion. What I see more is people just being kind of swallowed by their culture and their society in the way that they just go with that stream. In whichever way their culture is kind of pushing them, that's where they follow. And that could even be reaction to the culture. That could become a mainstream stream opposite, which is not different. It's equally like powerless, basically.
Yeah. What are some of the ways that you think are the most effective ways to improve your awareness, to build that muscle of perception and create more depth with it?
All right. So the first thing I wanna say, and I think this is more specifically probably to the people that will listen to this. I made a post called "Why Habits Are Bad in Your Life," and this was a bit controversial. I think over 1,000 people read it, and a lot of people was writing like they were triggered, which was my intention, because I want to snap people out of this kind of thing. What I meant with this post is that fundamentally, if you think in habits, acquiring habits, you're thinking of how can I just put some effort, and then become automated, you know? And I think this is bad. It goes against consciousness. So one thing that's probably quite fundamental is to drop this mentality and realize that there are no good and bad habits. A habit and a repeated action is two different things. Habit means that it's automated. Repeated action doesn't necessarily mean it's automated. Eating and sleeping is not a habit. It's just something that you do every day. So that's one thing you could do to try to remove the mentality of habits and try to do everything as consciously as you can. it will have a big impact. That means that everything you do is an opportunity to increase your awareness. If you do this, everything you do can also increase in the quality, how it feels to do it. You doing your dishes can become a very great experience, like as great as watching a good movie on Netflix or whatever people like nowadays.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so that's kind of one thing. Another thing, obviously, is meditation. That's something that is recommended for everyone because that's kind of the entry stage, I think. You know, just not even doing anything specifically on the meditation, not even focusing on the breath, just sitting down, close your eyes, put an alarm if you want, or you don't even need to, and just kind of sit. And then slowly you will develop awareness as a byproduct. Um, there's a lot I could give, but I also recommend journaling practices. Stream of consciousness writing can be very effective. And I mean, to make it short, the last one is obviously to develop some emotional awareness, to understand when an emotion comes, what thoughts come with it, what beliefs come with it, how do you behave.
Yeah, I think those are all really good. They're all different layers of what I actually teach my guys as well,
Yeah.
different forms. Because at the end of the day, it's um, you know, your ability to stay embodied and be aware of what's happening inside you is what allows you to actually start to become okay and accept what's in there. Right? It's
Mm,
just going
mm,
through those layers and being okay with it and learning how to embrace it as just like these are different unconscious parts of you that are coming up and that are maybe feeling unsafe or feeling like they want to belong or feeling like they need love, and it
mm.
gives you an opportunity to become aware of them and, like you said, the thoughts, the feelings, the patterns, and actually address them.
Yeah.
I think one thing we talked about is that the more aware you become and get out of the way of your internal workings, the more you can actually just allow the healing to happen on its own without
Yeah.
you getting in its own way. And so just a simple
Exactly.
act of like meditation, for example, is what I see meditation as is you practicing awareness, presence, and getting out of your own way so that
Mm,
the stuff that you've been suffocating or suppressing can come up and just naturally process out of you, right? If you get out of the
yeah.
way, it comes up and it flows through your body through its natural path, and then it dissolves into a new energy, and that's really what the body can do for you, what your entire intelligence can do for you if you are aware enough and get out of its way.
I think one very important thing that popped up in my head now when you were speaking is also I want people to get in touch with their experience. So I don't like these people that meditate for 10 years and they don't feel anything. Those people should stop meditating.
Yeah.
Like, because what a friend a couple of years ago told me that one issue that can happen if you meditate and you're not aware, you're doing it like a habit, is that you can create disassociation, which
Mm-hmm.
means that you're now pushing yourself further away from yourself. And now the meditation becomes negative. So this is not to scare anyone, that's just worst case scenario. But you should definitely make sure that you experience something in the practice. Maybe not the first time. You could try it for a week, 2 weeks, or a month. Like a month is kind of the longest period I recommend someone to try anything. If you had a genuine experience, no one needs to tell you to do it. You would want to do it because you experienced something and you know you can experience more of that if you keep going. Then you keep going. Like when I started meditating many years ago, I did it because people said it was good. And for most of the years, didn't give me that much because I just did it because someone else said. Like you can try something because someone tells you, but you should keep it in your life because it's giving you something. And I think this is important because for some people, normal meditation will be very good. For other people, dynamic meditation or moving meditation, or even trying to meditate as you're having conversations or singing or who knows, might work much better. Then if they try to stick with normal meditation, it doesn't work, they're not going to discover the other thing that will.
Yeah, there are many paths to the top, um, or back to yourself, as they would say,
Mm,
and there's a lot of cool stuff out there that'll take you there. It's good to try things out, be open to the experience, and yet also don't believe anything until you experience
Mm.
it yourself. I think that's really important,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
otherwise it's just dogma. If you are, it's just you blind believing something, which actually hinders your growth. It blocks you from actually realizing your own inner power.
for sure. Also, not disbelief, and that's the negative that people often don't catch. Like they hear a concept and they're like, I don't believe in that. But what they believe in is the disbelief. So it's hard to get to the point where you're open-minded, that you don't believe and you don't disbelieve. It taken me a lot of time to get to this point, you know. But for sure, I realize why it really makes sense to not disbelieve either, because now then you're completely open to the possibility.
Yeah. I especially the first thing I tell the guys that start my program is the number one thing is drop all your expectations. Like
Yeah,
kill all your expectations of what this is or what this isn't, because you have no
yeah,
fucking idea what it is or isn't. It's just come
mm,
with a complete open mind. I think the problem is that when you have an intention or like an expectation in mind, it takes
mm,
the power of your mind, and instead of keeping it open, aware, perceptive, it narrows it and it points it into one direction. And
yeah,
that creates a situation where your mind just expands into one area and blocks
mm,
out any of the other potential gains, which might be even above and beyond what you could have ever dreamed of. It
yeah.
blocks those out. And then if you don't seem to get the one thing you wanted, you see it as a big failure and a disappointment. And it feels crushing for those people. So I have to like
Yeah.
reinforce, like, kill your expectations, kill your expectations.
It's like in order to transform, you have to do something that you haven't done before, and you know, how can you ever experience something outside of what you already experienced unless you go like to something new? If you try to, let's say they do your program, right? Or they do my program, and they do it with this expectation, and they cling to it, and they're like, no, it has to be like this. They don't understand this expectation comes from what they've been through already. It's not something new. It's just
Mm-hmm.
recycling memories. So it's taking what they've already had and maybe exaggerating it, but it's not necessarily something new. It's like a colorblind person. I'm going to show you like or sorry, not a colorblind. A normal person has never seen any colors, and I'm going to show colors, and he's like, I'm expecting it to be all the shades of gray, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And then I show the rainbow. He's going to be like, what is this? I'm expecting the fucking gray shit.
Yeah.
No, no, no. Drop that shit. Experience it. Take it in. Same thing when I'm having my calls. Maybe I didn't tell everybody, but the intention and what I told most was don't make any notes. Just be with me in the experience. That will be how you will take the most value of the call.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there was like, I learned this in Vipassana meditation, a couple of years ago, but he describes it as there's three levels of learning. There is
Mm,
like the surface level learning, which is like, I Ruse tell you Niels about this great restaurant.
mm,
It's the best food you ever had. And so now you know something new,
yeah.
but you haven't, you have a very surface level information so far. You have a
Mm,
little bit of information. Level two is you go to the restaurant yourself and you see the other food. You see all the food. It smells good. People seem to be enjoying it.
mm,
It looks pleasant. Now you have a bit more information. Now you have a bit more experience, and this is like a level two, but it's still not the full depth of what it is. The next level and the final level is you sit down, they bring your food, you taste it, and you let yourself fully experience it entirely.
yeah.
And then now you can decide in that moment, yes, this in fact is the best fucking food in the best restaurant in this area, or no, it's not so good, I don't know what he was talking about. But that is the most important layer, is your personal experience, really letting it fully in.
I want to make a very quick example of that. It's something I heard from a couple of different sources, but I think it's a genius example. So it illustrates the importance of experiencing something. So let's say the difference between you almost make it, you almost experience it, or you experience it, right? Because a lot of people are proud when they almost experience it. See, let's take normal things in your life. Like you have to go and take a shit and you almost go to the bathroom, right? Like, or you're very hungry, you didn't eat and you almost have a dinner. right? Is it the same? No, no, no. It's complete opposite. That's why we're stressing experience. At least you need to experience something. Because otherwise it's just words. It's like you're hungry and I tell you about food. Now you have a lot of knowledge. Didn't do anything to your stomach, right?
Mm-hmm.
Instead, I present you the food, I give you, here, take it. Now, at least you have a little taste of the food. Okay, you had an experience. Good, now keep going.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I always want to stress this. Like, people are so confused with these external motivations of it's cultural and it's deeper. It's like these unconscious patterns in culture. You know, people have said, oh, you should do this, you should be like this, take on this identity, gain a lot of knowledge, gain a lot of information. For instance, like, you know, our school system nowadays, just or not even nowadays, but probably the last 100 or 200 years, it's all about getting a lot of information. And now we have these devices, and these have way more information than our brains could ever have, right? So we're just pumping ourselves with information. Doesn't mean anything. It's literally like reading about food instead of having it. And we're getting detached. We're coming to the point where we're like, you know, like people say, for instance, oh, like people are going to spend all their time in VR, right? Well, to me, that just sounds like really taking information and trying to kind of squeeze as much as you can out of it. I mean, I don't think VR can ever even come close to what it is to actually be here and alive. But if you're not conscious enough, you will not see the difference.
Actually, that's a really good topic I'd love to jump into is this this pattern that's really common with a lot of people, which is escaping or distracting.
Yeah.
I find that so many of the guys that I work with, and I'm of course guilty of this as well, I still have patterns where I might feel something uncomfortable, and I notice the first thing I do is it might grab my phone, and I have to catch myself like, okay, wait, I feel like I'm trying to escape a feeling right now, and then I can go back and process that feeling. But I mean, this happens with guys when it comes to avoiding taking certain actions, like going out and, let's say, approaching women and getting the experience of like being in the presence of women and expressing themselves. Or it could be like porn addictions where they like escape to porn, escape to eating junk food or sugary foods when they feel uncomfortable, or Netflix or TV or whatever. What are your thoughts on all that? Like, what do you see going on there? And do you have any suggestions for guys that are maybe struggling with that stuff?
It's good because the thing you're asking about now ties back into the title of the video, which is why awareness is the key to your freedom. These are compulsions and these are unconscious patterns that are ruling people, and that is not freedom, it's the opposite. They are caged into it. But the patterns do give some level of comfort, right? When you have this discomfort and now you reach for the phone, you get some level of comfort, even though you're pushing away. It's like you imagine a kind of a, you take a loan from the bank and the bank was like, okay, you have to pay the loan. And you're like, you have the money, but you're like, like let's push it 1 month. But then of course it increases because you're pushing it. And then a couple of years, now the debt is 10 times the level of what it was before. How are you going to pay that? You know, it's going to be, you're making it worse. But basically, awareness comes in here as a very useful tool to increase your awareness and to sharpen your perception. Just like you said, when you have these patterns of escaping and you're reaching for something, one of the best things you can do is not to force yourself not to do it, but to try to bring as much awareness to that moment, regardless if you choose to stay away from it or to indulge. If you can do it consciously, either one, that will be the best option. I actually experimented with it myself a lot in the last half year. I had at 2 occasions over a month with no social media. Then I had like a while when I was really into social media. I had a silent week. I had I'm on 2 months now without any added sugar, like only natural sugars and honey. So I've experimented with many of these things to kind of see, you know, take it away, take it back, indulge like consciously. I even had some moments where I legit ate like more chocolate than than I've been like in my adult life, to the point where I was really thinking I damaged something in the body, you know. I could feel like, okay, this is not good. But I did that for a specific reason. Like I felt the pull so strongly that it would just feel like more resistance to resist it. So what I did is I let myself fall into it and try to stay as conscious as possible. Eventually, that moment led me to staying away from sugar, like chocolate and stuff, for over 2 months now. Not doesn't feel bad. It just feels, yeah, not like I'm missing anything really. And I did the same with porn. Like I haven't watched porn since November, something like that.
Nice. So it sounds like what you're saying is don't necessarily fight one way or another. Don't resist one way or another. It's just stay as aware as you possibly can throughout the entire experience of whether you choose not to indulge or whether you choose to indulge. And that experience itself will actually give you some insights to help you in the future.
Because otherwise, if you're trying to deal with a problem too much within the problem, it's like a double negative. It's like whichever you do is going to be bad. Because if you do it, you fall into it, you're going to get the pleasure of short-term gratification. You're going to get the pain of guilt and shame or something else. You're going to get some shit for sure. Now, if you push it away, you're going to suppress the desire to do that. So you're going to feel good that you did it, but also part of you is going to feel like disowned. Like you're going to feel like you suppressed some desire, and this will also build up and you will have a problem. So trying to deal with the problem within the problem, that's the issue. So a very simple strategy, like I said, is just to try to stay as conscious as possible. Then you can discover, I do this, I feel good, I feel guilt. Oh, I don't do this, I feel proud, but I feel suppressed, held back. Then when you see that, that's the first step. Then you can dive deeper into those. How come it's related to this thing? Oh, maybe I didn't want the chocolate. I didn't want to feel alone. Okay, why am I feeling so alone? Because my social life is not good, right? And this is how you can use that pattern and work your way backwards, and you'll find these deeper problems within that you can work on. Instead of trying to fight your sugar addiction, you go for the more deep things, so the sugar addiction will just fall away or just not be a non-issue.
Yep, I love it. That's it's very aligned with something that I help guys with. And speaking of that deeper layer, I'd love to talk about that as well. You know, the one way that I'm helping a lot of guys is through I think we talked about this yesterday, emotional releasing is helping them understand what that deeper layer want is. What I found is that it usually comes down to some form of deep want, of wanting, you know, sense of belonging or oneness, wanting to feel safe, wanting love, wanting a sense of control. And a lot of times it's those wants that are creating those deeper impulses. And I've found some ways that you can, you know, actually let go of those wants. Because, you know, what's interesting about the wanting is you can't want something and have it at the same time. Like in the same moment, they're just polar opposites. And I think when people start to become aware that, like, okay, the wanting itself is giving me the experience of not having. So if I let go of that wanting, then I could experience a sense of having. It helps them kind of click in their mind that, like, what's actually, you know, creating those innate, deep, you know, drives to do certain behaviors and not do certain behaviors. What are some of the ways? I know you've developed a couple of really cool ways that you shared with me recently. I don't know if you want to share them today, or if you maybe want to share one of them.
I was actually thinking, like, I mean, if someone does a call with me, they're going to get my language, but I was thinking maybe I could try to translate my stuff into your language.
Sure.
Let's see. So you said the thing about wants. So the way I understand it is, it's true, like you can't have wanting and having at the same time. But, you know, you can have wanting for something, getting it, and then wanting more, right?
Yes.
The way I see the problem even more fundamentally is you have conflicting wants from two perspectives. So on one way you want it, and another way you don't want it.
Yeah.
And this conflict is kind of a core issue that I see, that even if you get it, the part of you that doesn't want is going to counterbalance that and push you back to where you were. But also, if you're not getting it for too long, this other force is going to push you again. So it's working for a sort of equilibrium that it's like a homeostasis. Now the
Mm-hmm.
problem is that you don't get like either what you want or what you don't want. Like you don't get anything in this process.
Mm-hmm.
So something that I've developed and that I'm working with both in my program and also in the free calls is how simple way to put these two perspectives into one, to put them together so that this kind of conflict stops. Because in my opinion, unless you include both perspectives and put them together, this conflict is perpetual and it's a permanent conflict, meaning that no change can actually happen. No actual change. You can have a surface change, you can have no deep change, because even no matter what you do, this is the want, right? And this is the thing that doesn't want that thing. You get it and you think it's solid and you can even have it for a while. Eventually, this part will just become stronger and stronger and stronger because it's suppressed all the time. And
Mm-hmm.
then boom, it will counterbalance it. And you're basically back where you started.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
Awesome. Nils, I'd love to hear about some of the new things you're working on. Since we you touched on something right now, but I know you've recently started some new ventures. I know you've been in Tunisia, going
Yeah.
through your own personal development, going through a lot of your own insights and experiences, and they've led you to some clarity around some of your next steps. So love to hear more about that and where the guys in my group can maybe find you or reach out for like an awareness call if they want to do that.
Yeah. So basically, I want to kind of explain the pillar of everything that I've been doing in the last months. It comes from me experimenting with silence as an element, experimenting with bringing silence into my life. So it started with a silent day when I was here, and then it became a couple of silent days, and then it became a silent week, which was very intense, to be honest. More silent days, and now it's just I don't speak that often because I don't meet so many people right now. Especially in the last month, I've been almost completely alone here. So I would speak when I have the calls, but otherwise I wouldn't speak that much. And so silence has been a very, very powerful aspect of my life. And it's become like a teacher for me. Like literally, just I've been in silence a whole day, and then the next day I know exactly what I'm gonna do, because somehow things were just getting done. Like some process. I don't really know how to describe it, but maybe just some form of thing happened in the brain that like boom, okay, here something got worked out in the silence. Um, so that led me to everything I'm doing now, the concepts that I came up with, the coaching that I'm doing, every single step. It all comes from the silence. That's kind of the steady backbone. So if there's one thing that anyone in your group can take massive value from just this call, is if you can make silence a part of your life, one day every 2 weeks or one day every week, you just don't speak for one day. You don't even need to, you can listen to music, you can do your normal stuff, but you don't speak for one day in the week. It have a massive impact. It's going to have an insane impact. It did for me, and many people that I told the same thing, they also had massive impact from this. But yeah, to go a little bit deeper into the things that I've been working on. So I've done coaching for almost 3 years now. In the summer, it will be 3 years. And it's been a very intense and also interesting experience for me because I definitely fell in love with the process. Like it was tough in the beginning. Like I was only 23 when I started coaching, and sometimes I would coach people almost twice my age, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they would be very, very intense in many, many ways. And coaching for me presented me with a lot of questions because, all the hundreds of clients that I've coached now, I could observe after coaching a lot, I could observe like patterns, common patterns with the mind, defense mechanisms, emotional patterns, kind of sneaky lying. My awareness and perception really developed through this, and my intuition got very, very developed as well.
Mm-hmm.
So in the last months, I guess I became even more interested in just the perception and awareness coaching. And that's what I'm doing now. basically, because I found that this was solving the deeper point. No matter if I have someone who wants to reach something in dating, if this person even reached a goal and he doesn't take care of the fundamental problem, now the problem started manifesting in career, and then he takes care of that. Now the problem is going to start manifesting in family, and then friends, and then it would just keep like this, and their whole life they're going to be unfulfilled, even if they reach whatever goals they think, because they're not taking care of the fundamental thing. And since I've seen this problem, I can't ignore it. I had to find some form of solution for this. And that's what I've been working on. And that's what I'm working toward, to find ways to solve these more fundamental problems. So everyone that's done an awareness call, I basically told them like this. Every single problem they're having in their life, like I said in the beginning, is an unconscious pattern. The problem is all the meaning we put to these patterns in, thoughts we think are different than emotions, and all of these things. They are different in the way you experience them, but they all influence each other and they're all connected like a web. So basically, sorry, I got slightly distracted. Basically, this problem now looks like an equation with 200 variables. What I want to do is I want to try to simplify the equation all the way down to one variable, like they do in math. They take 200 variables, simplify into one variable, and now you just solve this. This is what I'm doing with my coaching, and it's been quite effective. Now, of course, just because you have the solution doesn't mean it's going to fix itself in one day, because your system needs time. Even if you're doing the right thing, let's take your body, you want to change your physique. Even if you're doing the perfect thing, it's not fixed after one day. It will take a lot of time. It needs to take a lot of time, because if you do it too fast, you will damage yourself. If you try to change your body too fast, you will damage yourself. If not on the outside, on the inside. So this is the same thing with any type of change. It needs proper time to make it sustainable and solid. But basically, it's like I don't really tell anyone to do. I don't tell anyone to kind of jump into coaching with me unless they do an awareness call. That's kind of the entry pass. Because if you do an awareness call, this kind of free calls that I'm doing, you will get the gist of what I'm teaching, and you will get the experience. Now, I tell the guys they will do. I give them a kind of a guided process called dynamic acceptance. I guide them through them in the call, and then I give it a recording, and then I tell them you do this for 30 days. After 30 days, if you feel a change, if you feel an experience that it's worth it to keep going, you keep going. If not, you just drop it, because everything needs to be based on a change in experience.
Yep.
And that's kind of how I'm viewing this whole thing. That if you experience something with the processes that I'm giving, you keep going. If you don't, go somewhere else. It's fine.
Yeah, that's good. That's awesome. And guys, I took one of these calls with Nils, and I've been practicing it, including it in my own emotional listening practice, and it's definitely powerful stuff. It definitely adds a different element and helped sharpen my own awareness around some stuff that I'm working on. So definitely worth a conversation with Nils and to get some of those wisdom bombs from him and learn some of these powerful solutions that he's using on himself and some of his own clients.
Yeah, it's kind of that thing. Like I used to work in sales at one point, but nowadays I'm not so much into sales and not even marketing. Like I just want to make a large impact. I want to make a big impact in people, and I want kind of the things I'm doing to just speak for themselves. Obviously, there will be a little bit of sales and marketing in the stuff, but as little as possible. Like I don't even want to think about it. I want to think about making something great and finding out how I can give it to more people. This is probably the first time where I feel like I want to call all my friends and give them this process. Like I literally have three buddies that are doing these calls now that, I'm taking them through like a normal client with a free call, but they're friends. Why? Because I want to give this to my buddies because I think it's so good. And I never felt like that with even anything I did before.
That's awesome, man. A lot of times I find that when you're having that energy towards what you're doing, you're definitely, really connected to your purpose. So I can definitely feel that off of you. And I know you're really excited. I'm excited for you and how this is going to evolve. and how you're going to touch a lot of people's lives.
Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah.
Yeah. So do you have something else you want to say?
Nah.
No.
I instantly forgot what it was.
Well, that's all I had for today, man. I really appreciate you coming on and doing this with me. I think you shared a lot of amazing wisdom and powerful stuff on some tips some guys can, and women that are listening to this can use to apply into their own lives, develop their own awareness, and start to break through some of their unconscious patterns. Thanks so much for coming on today, Nils. I appreciate you, brother.
Thank you very much. I appreciate being here too. And people can find me through the Nils Flair like page that I've created. And I also created a new group called Life Awareness Forum, which is strictly about self-development, awareness work, and the new things that I've been working on in the last months. And yeah, you know, if you feel interested, if you're interested in anything that I said, if you want a full depth experience, I'm still offering the free calls. All you need to do is to fill in the form, and you can find the link to the form. I mean, maybe I can post it in this video.
Yeah. So what I'll do is I'll post it, and then I'll share your group, and then you can just comment with the link to the awareness calls there.
Perfect. Yeah, other than that, I mean, always enjoy to connect and have conversations with you. And I am very happy about the growth and the development that you've been through since you were on program back in the day. Like,
Yeah,
I'm really happy that you're going in this direction. I think you're doing the right thing.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. I'm enjoying it. I feel like I'm on my purpose as well right now and feel connected to it. So yeah, it's been great, man. I appreciate all your help and support in getting me to where I am. I appreciate you.
You're welcome. It was a pleasure. It was a good time.
It was a good time. All right, brother. Thank you so much, man.
All right. Thank you very much. It was good talking to you, and bye to everyone, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Cheers.